Hi, I'm Rachel Lancaster, and this is the Magnificent Midlife Podcast. This is where we celebrate women in midlife and beyond. We challenge the status quo and bash those negative stereotypes about being an older woman. We're not over the hill at 40, 50, 60. We're just getting started, and the world needs us now more than ever. I'll be talking all things midlife and sharing some fabulous stories of amazing women doing very cool stuff. Now's our time. I'm joined today by the two founders of Cucumber Clothing, and that is Eileen Willett and Nancy Zeffman. Hello ladies, it's lovely to have you here.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you very much.
So Cucumber Clothing is a very interesting brand because you make clothing that keeps us cool, doesn't it? And originally it was designed for women in menopause, wasn't it? But now you've expanded it out and you're doing all sorts of other things, aren't you? So tell me a little bit about how you got started.
We got started, it was complete happenstance. It's like one of those things, you know, when you fall in love and you think, how did this happen? How did I even meet this guy? It's all chance. Well, it was a little bit like that because we were on a holiday with a bunch of great women, but we didn't know a lot of them. We were brought together by birthday. And as women do when they're together, maybe particularly when they're not with people they know really well, everything was out there. A lot of them were talking about being hot and they were struggling to sleep. And so we thought, that's interesting. There must be something out there. There must be some nice clothes that people can wear that can help them. And so we had a quick look at fashion for over 40s or fashion for it's an oxy. I mean, really, it's not. Yeah, it's not more. It's not a thing. And we thought, gosh, there's a real gap in the market here. Why don't we do something about it, Nancy?
It's a fun little thing to do on the side. Exactly. We realised.
And so, but you know, we took it seriously enough. We had a really good look at fabrics because we realised that was where we could make the difference. You know, we both like to work out a lot. Nancy does a lot of basketball, which is a very hot cardio-based exercise. I love doing hot yoga. We both know what it's like to get very sweaty. And we both know that we wear clothes when we do those exercises that help us release all that sweat. And so that after a few minutes, when you're finished, you feel absolutely fine. You go out for a coffee with your friend. And we thought, why aren't people using those fabrics in a day-to-day atmosphere arena? You know, why aren't they using fabrics which help thermoregulate you, help keep, sweat away from your body, help you keep you smelling well.
But are styled nicely that you'd want to wear them,
exactly,
in your sort of
with really nice
designs.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where we started. Yeah. Lots of research around fabrics, lots of testing. With
I would say we spent about a year and a half finding our first fabric.
Yeah,
so
that's about right.
Got lots of different fabrics in, we tested them all, and then we honed in on our first design. So you're right, we launched very much with that older woman in mind, and it was just sleepwear. So we launched, it was just 6 pieces, very simple, because we wanted to make sure we had a market and something people wanted. And to be honest, we haven't really looked back because a couple of days after we launched, we had a piece in the Daily Telegraph by Lisa Armstrong. And clearly there's a market for it because straight away the orders were coming in, which was great. And really it's because of customer feedback. I would say that we've diversified a bit because women were saying to us things like, oh, I wish I had this when I was pregnant. I had breastfeeding sweats. So women were buying it for their daughters or daughters-in-law and things like great for holiday.
They're going on holiday and they would pack it on holiday and think, oh, this is fantastic. I've been wearing it to bed, but actually it's pretty enough. I can wear it by the pool and it doesn't crush. I don't need to wash it while I'm on holiday. It's totally multifunctional. It really means that for all those short weekends away, people are finding it really useful because you had one dress that could multitask as walking down to the little market to buy your food, lying by the pool or sitting on the beach and wearing it out for dinner under the stars and then possibly just wearing it.
Got your carry-on, which is great. People like to travel like that. And they multifunction because you don't have to wash them very often. So they're not getting, unless they get dirty, you don't need to wash our clothes because they don't retain the sweat or odours. So you can wear it to bed and the next day wear it again without feeling that, you're wearing something that's a bit smelly.
Yeah. So you're both midlife women yourselves. What was it that I suppose gave you the courage to take this big step? Because it was quite a big step, wasn't it, to just set up your own business?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because we didn't think it. We did it.
Oh,
we
really?
thought it was a great idea, let's go for it. And if someone had said to us, this is what's going to, I mean, it might have been too scary. In a way, we just kind of decided, oh, this is a bit of fun, let's do it. And then before you know it, it's happened.
Yeah. I think in our minds, we thought, this is a great idea. We think it's got legs. Let's prove our concept. And we thought that somehow growing a business like this would be step by step, incremental. We could building block by building block, and it would be a really smooth path. What we didn't realize was that we'd have to embark on such a steep learning curve around so many things that we didn't know, because we didn't know we didn't know we didn't know. Grading,
what's that?
Yeah, exactly. What element of grading do you want to, or how do you want to do this or that? We had no idea. We didn't even know the question existed. So
because we're patient people,
mentors, exactly. But I think that ignorance was a blessing, because as Nancy said, if we knew everything in advance, we might not have wanted to.
It's like with a lot of things in life, isn't it? If you think them too much, it sounds so scary, or so all-encompassing. And it has been all-encompassing, but generally it's been great.
Yeah.
I always say that, if you think about the grand scheme of it, and if you think about how big it might be or how complicated, then you'd never get started, would you? But if you just take that first step.
And also for us, to be honest, I think, we're so involved because we do everything, the day-to-day minutiae of what we're doing. Sometimes you forget the bigger picture. So it's when we had one of our freelance designers helping us with our cashmere mix collection. And she was saying to me, oh, you should be so proud. You've launched a brand. It's like, oh, yeah. You forget what you've done because you're so busy just thinking about packing that order. Or
that's right. And sometimes when we write our newsletter, if I'm writing, putting it together each month, I think, gosh, we've done a lot this month. We've had some great press, or we've interviewed some interesting people. We've got a new collection out. And so it's it's nice. Yeah, it's nice to surprise yourself. And then the other thing is, I think, which probably is true, not of course every woman, we're very privileged to be in the position that we can say we've got a nice house that we both like to that we can live in. Our kids are heading off to their independence, and we were both at a stage where we had space and time where there hadn't been any before. And so I think everybody has to look at themselves and think, well, what am I going to do with that space and time? And some people go off on a lifetime adventure. Some people get heavily involved in charitable work that they haven't been able to before. Some people get really stuck into their career because why not? If you've been a professional all your life, you can really go for it at this stage. And so for us, doing this has meant that we had the mental and emotional time and space to involve ourselves in a new challenge, and that's been really helpful. I think we often say, if we started on this journey when we were in our 20s or probably 30s, when we had young children, it would have been very different. Really different. We would have
felt, this is our new baby that we're raising together. My other half.
Or is it polyamory? My wife and my husband.
Exactly.
Okay, we won't get into that.
We're very
too
modern.
much information.
So I'm guessing the whole journey has been a lot easier because there are two of you.
Oh God, yeah. This would be. It's hard with two, but it would be very hard with one, because also, as Eileen says, particularly being women in our 50s. We realise we're not in our 20s, and as much as we're both happy to put everything into this and work really hard, you need your time out, you need your space, and we're both very much into looking after ourselves to an extent. You need someone else.
Health.
So we want to still, be able to go away or have some time out to do other things. I have a dog that I need to walk, all those sorts of things, which are important as, a bigger mix in life. So no, I think if it was just one, if I was doing this on my own, it would be more than doubly hard.
Yes, and I think because the last business I had, I was solo, but it was different because it was much smaller. I was designing and making my own collection, and that worked really well, and it was profitable. Those were the days. I was taking a nice salary, whereas now we plow everything back into the company, which is as it should be. But it's a different stage. It's a different.
Got to think bigger picture, longer term.
Exactly, it's a completely different animal. But what I would say is sometimes it's a very lonely process when you're a solo business operator, because you can't say to someone, "Oh, so what do you think about this?" And you might know the answer yourself, but you just want someone to say, actually, I'm not sure if you should go down that route. Whereas with Nancy, we can do that. We can talk things through, and actually we almost always agree, which is quite nice. So I think we both have a very similar vision of where we want the business to be, and that's really helpful as well. And not just having a partner, it's having a partner that you share the same vision with,
values,
and the same values.
Ideas.
So you've never fallen out big style over anything.
Not yet. Ask us in another year.
But it must be quite stressful, I should imagine, at times as well. So you must know each other pretty well and feel comfortable with each other.
Each other a long time, and to be honest, I think probably what helps is, we say this quite openly. We're very different personalities.
Yeah.
So we have, although we both do everything, we have different skill sets to bring, and I would like to say I'm the easygoing one, but I think I'll give that. I'll let Eileen take that mantle.
I don't think it's just that. I think it's the fact that we can both see that the other person is putting in as much as we are. So it's not like I think, oh God, I've been working for the last 3 days, and there's nothing like that. We both take holidays. We both take time out to do our exercise, get the occasional facial massage.
Very important.
To get our brow threading done. We recognise that that's all part of our mental and physical well-being.
But we're both invested in this 100%. Yeah. So, like Eileen says, I'm not thinking, "Oh, I did."
Yeah. So there's trust there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the key thing. I know that if while I'm sleeping, probably Nancy's working. I need more sleep than she does. But at the end of the day,
we come from it in a different way. But
exactly.
We're both, got the same vision for how it's going to
and
go.
we recognise that we both are willing to work equally hard to get to where we want to be, and we know
in
that
our own little ways.
In our own way, exactly.
That's brilliant, because that's a testament to friendship just as much as the success of creating
we've known each other a long time. So
18 years, isn't it?
Yeah. So we met at the school gates. 2 of our sons were at school together.
Yeah. Year 3,
and they went off to separate universities. They came back to London, and they now share a flat together. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah,
our
so they're
lives
still
are
good
fully
friends.
intertwined.
Exactly, they're still good friends.
That's lovely.
We can't find out because they'd be really annoyed.
So in terms of departure from former life, did you both have a background in fashion or something similar? How did that work? Was it something completely new, or a sort of a pivot, or how did that your previous experience help?
Well, your background.
Okay, so my background is really fashion. Yeah. So I always wanted to be a fashion designer. And I did that for a bit, actually, in the end with my own company. But really, I moved to England because I met a handsome Englishman, and I fell in love and got married. And then I ended up working for Nickel Fari. I had a few short jobs, but really I ended up working for Nickel Fari, and they were just at the beginning that they were setting up Nickel Fari menswear. So I was very involved in that because it was a tiny team of really 3 of us. And then I ended up having children. And then when my kids, when the third one had gone off to nursery, I remember thinking, gosh, I've got a bit of time. It wasn't very much. It was like half day nursery, but I thought, I want to do something for myself now. And I've always been creative. In fact, I used to force my kids to do things. Okay, time to collect some leaves. We're doing leaf collage making today. Oh, yes. We're making tiny people today. Again. So I really wanted to do something. So I did a short course on textiles, and I decided to do a bag making business, which became reasonably successful. It was just me.
I had some of your bags.
Yeah, you had some of my bags. And I had a nice list of about 500 people who would commission me. Every month I had about 10 or 12 commissions. So that was really great. And then Cucumber came along.
Yeah, so my background is in advertising. I worked at Saatchi's. And, similar to Eileen, when I had my kids, it was very typical of my generation. I stopped working and then sort of took my eye off the ball. And suddenly I realized I had 3 kids, 2 dogs, and hang on a minute, they're all growing up, and what about me? So I actually then trained to be a Citizens Advice Bureau trainer as a way to sort of get back into work. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was doing different things. I was also, other voluntary work like reading in schools, things like that. And then, as Eileen says, Cucumber came along. And although I would say marketing is different in you've got all social media, all the principles are the same. Mm. So I think we complement each other in that sense, is that I could, for me, I love clothes, but I couldn't ever claim that I'm a creative person. In fact, particularly my daughter would love to have had you as a mother. And I remember years ago, do you remember on holiday to Norfolk? And my daughter was so cute. She had this little teddy, and you drew it in the sand, and it was like, Mummy, why can't you do things like that?
But you did the accounting.
Yeah, so I do. So I'm creative in a different way.
Exactly.
Creative accounting, I hope not.
I don't know how I ended up with the accounting. I think I just... But, that's my background. And so I try and, meet out, reach new people, and get us into publication.
Yeah, no,
get you people like you, lovely people like you to interview us.
Exactly.
Sort of
no, Nancy's been instrumental in getting our name out there, and in a way that I never could, because I used to actually be much more shy and retiring before this business started. And in fact, because we've had to do talks and panels and even things like this, where before I would have been very nervous, I ended up taking some speaking lessons with the wife of a friend of mine who is terrific. She's an actor and she does a lot of training for people, and it made a huge difference. So actually just touching on something else, that one of the nicest things about running this business is it's forced us to take up new challenges that we wouldn't have chosen to do ourselves. I would never have chosen to speak in front of other people or to do podcasts like this. But now I would have been very nervous. I would have literally had that dry mouth. I would have been a bit shaky. I would have had to spend literally an hour in front of the mirror making sure I look perfect. And now I'm just much more chilled about it. And I love the fact that
we're challenging ourselves.
Yeah, we're challenging ourselves.
And I think that's really important as you get older. It's so easy just to
retire into a safe bubble of friends who all do the same things and go on holiday in the same place and eat at the same restaurants and read the same books and the same papers.
You can live in your bubble, which I like my bubble, but I don't always want to be in it. And I think it's, we were saying this the other day, weren't we, how one of the best things for both of us has been all the amazing people we've met.
Yeah, definitely.
Men and women. I mean, mainly women because of the sort of business we're doing. But it's been great how many people are being supportive and how many people from all different ages, backgrounds that we're meeting that we wouldn't have come across otherwise.
Yeah, and each person teaches us something new.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope that we teach people. Do we teach people new things? I don't know. I hope we do.
They smile when we talk to them.
Well, I think that's brilliant. I can see you have, very complementary skill sets, which must be brilliant. Must be so good. And it's just
we don't know what we're missing.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't sound like you're missing very much at the moment. But I think it is so important, isn't it, that we don't just sort of accept the status quo, I suppose, and that's where you've challenged it, haven't you? And you've challenged yourselves. And then, as you were saying, Eileen, it's quite remarkable what we can do when we push ourselves to do it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And what a sense of achievement. I mean, thankfully you're learning to love coding.
Yeah.
So you built the website.
It is nice. It is a nice thing to do. Yeah, it's an achievement. Every time we get a piece of press or somebody writes about us, we think, well, we did that. That wouldn't have happened. And we get some really lovely feedback from customers. And that's also really nice when we hear from people.
Because it's nice to feel you're doing something. I mean, obviously, this is a business, but at the same time, we feel we're doing something that is helping people in its own small way.
Yeah.
And when you hear from customers, and we have a very high repeat customer rate because we're very much a fabric-led brand. Yes, of course, we want them to be pieces people want to wear, but if it was just, there are plenty of other things that are similar-ish to us, but what makes us different is the fabric. So when people come back to us and say, I don't know, I can sleep well, or I can do this, or you've made a difference, whatever, it does,
it's very nice.
It is nice. Yeah.
And on that note, actually, I can't even remember why, we dusted off our original business plan. So that's, a venerable 24 months old now, but we hadn't really looked, you do a business plan and then you put it away and you don't
do something completely different.
Exactly. The nice thing was, looking at the business plan, is actually we'd written in there that we want to be something like a business that supports other like-minded women's charities and projects.
From the
beginning, we want to be an ethical company. We want to be a company that knows its supply chain really well, and that made us feel quite good because we really have tried to do that right from the start, and we do support women's charities. The most recent one is One World Woman, who have projects in the Gambia, but we've also supported Prevents Breast Cancer and also the Eve Appeal. And we've also tried to be, a conscious clothing company. So, we've taken out the last bit of plastic from our chain. Just this year, we now use 100% potato starch bags, which are made from potatoes, made in Lancashire. And we source everything bar fabric from this country. We make everything in this country. And we've now moved to these really fabulous, I love them actually, they're called postal sacks.
Yeah.
They just fold over, very simple bags to send out our things, because we realised we were sending things out in boxes, which fine can be recycled. But these bags are from recycled paper. They can be recycled or they can be reused. And they're just not as much. So, not even if somebody does chuck it away, it's not as much as a box to chuck away. Little things. We're now looking for recycled labels.
Yeah, and the thing I would say with all of that is we are realising there's a whole movement at the moment about, being more sustainable, and it's about not trying to be perfect. So, there's still plenty of ways we can improve, but as we move on, every collection, we're trying to think of other ways we can, be more mindful and be better and know our carbon footprint. And obviously making anything has an impact, but positive as well, because we are supporting UK manufacturing, as Eileen says, and upgrade and pattern cutting here, but also just trying to do our little bit to make clothing in a more conscious way. And the fact that our fabrics last a long time, they don't need washing or iron, well, hardly need washing. You don't iron them, you don't tumble dry them, all those little things add up. And I think sometimes people feel if they can't be perfect, it's just too difficult, I won't try at all. So the whole point is just, if we all make small steps, it all contributes to the wider picture.
Yeah, and it also raises consciousness about it, so that people become more aware. Nowadays, a lot of times,
you feel more in control as well.
Yeah, if you go somewhere, you get a bit surprised if you get a plastic straw. Well, I mean, 5 years ago, it wasn't even a thing.
Yes.
But the fact is just suddenly that change is being made, a really positive change. And I think
it's a small thing.
It's a small thing, but it does make a difference ultimately. So if we can all do small things.
Yeah.
I really noticed when I got a magazine through the door that was covered in the potato starch wrap, and I thought, how great, I can just put it in the compost. It's really good. Hats off to you. I think that's fantastic, everything that you're doing on the sustainability front. It's really, really cool. It's great. So I want to get just taking you back right to the beginning. You talked about getting samples of fabric and testing them out. So how did you get those samples? How did you know where to get them and who to talk to and all of that?
We didn't. We just did a huge amount. There's luckily Mr. and Mrs. Google is out there, so we knocked on their door and they offered. So it was a lot of just internet research to start with, to look to see what other companies were doing. So there wasn't any other company like ours, but to look at mainly sportswear companies and see what sort of fabrics they were wearing, because we knew that would be where we would find.
But our fabric isn't like, so if you get a pair of leggings from, I don't know, Sweaty Betty or Lululemon or any of those sort of, lycra type things that, they work in the same way, but our fabrics are not like that. The whole point is they look and feel like, soft cotton jersey, or we have one that's full of thick silk, feels like silk. But it's, so as Eileen says, we wanted them to work in the same way. So it was just a question of emailing lots of companies, getting lots of different samples in, getting them made up in, a few different tops and bottoms, and just getting a whole host of people to try them, and then holding a lot of focus groups. So we really did our research a lot before we launched.
Yes, and I guess even looking back at that, I can see we were very naive. Any normal designer or company would go to a fabric fair. That's what you do. You go to Italy. You go to a fabric fair, you go check out your hundreds of
I would say, I would say that our ignorance has been to our advantage as well, because I remember another freelance designer used to saying to us, gosh, what an interesting way to use fabric. I'd never thought of it. But because we don't know that we're changing things, we're just doing it without thinking about, oh no, you don't do that. It's never been done, because we don't know what's done. So ignorance can be beneficial as well. We're always looking at new innovative fabrics. So our latest collection is using this fabric that has technology it's an American technology called 37.5, which is a volcanic mineral. And we found them, and often it's just meeting different people. We're meeting different people the whole time, and somebody will mention something and you follow up on that. So we don't want to sit still and think, okay, we found our fabric. And of course, once you find something that works, that's great. But depending on what kind of run we're doing, what the purpose of it is, we're trying to find different fabrics that suit that.
Yeah, but this particular one has been really great. It just feels lovely.
Beautiful.
Anytime anyone touches it, they think, oh, that's very nice. And so I think we'll be definitely doing our next collection in that, because it's incredibly, feels just lovely against your skin.
So that's made from 50% sustainable beechwood trees. Forest. And the other 50% is a polyester that's embedded with this special volcanic mineral that helps keep your optimal temperature of 37.5. It's so clever. There's amazing technologies out there.
Yeah, it is. And some of your listeners or viewers might think, oh, I heard the word polyester, and you have, dear viewer or dear listener.
We're not ashamed of it.
Yeah, no, and one of the things that we have found is that the word polyester or any of those kind of man-made fabrics, human-made fabrics, elicit quite a sort of visceral response in some people. They remember scratchy nylon skirts and tops and things that made them hot and sweaty and felt very uncomfortable. Well, times have moved on, and if they look in their wardrobe, they do any walking, hill walking, any kind of sport, they will have polyester in there. It just goes under lots of other names. Now, and one thing that people worry a lot about with polyester is, should it be recycled? Well, we have looked into this, and something we're still thinking about, but there's never any very clear answer. So recycled polyester is slightly degraded quality sometimes. It also requires a huge amount of energy and resources to recycle it.
And to make it soft.
Yeah, to make it something soft and wearable.
And I think we need to remember that we are in the fashion business. So however eco something is, it's got to be something you want to wear still.
Yes.
So for us, obviously, we want to do it in as sustainable a way as we can, but it has to be something beautiful, because otherwise
there's no point just making it and not selling it to anybody.
Yes.
And the second thing is, going back to polyester, people worry about microfibers. So what we say with that is that because we advocate what we call sustainable washing, which is now officially a thing because Stella McCartney's been writing and talking a lot about it.
You'll wash our clothes
too much. It's this old-fashioned idea that you don't actually need to wash your clothes unless they are dirty. So you brush your clothes, you brush your jackets, you might spot wash something, you might air it. You don't need to wash it. And the only reason that microfibers go into the system is because people are washing their clothes
so often,
every single day. They wear something for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe for a meeting, and straight into the washing every single time you've worn it. Our clothes absolutely do not need that level of care. They only need to be washed if they fit. If you get mud on it, if you pour a glass of wine down it, if your child spills their meal all over you, fine.
But often you can just spot wash them, and again, you literally just hang them to dry. As we said,
you don't use no tumble drying, cold wash or hand wash. Hang dry, no ironing. So on all those levels, you're using less energy, less water.
And the only thing I'd add to that is, it's very difficult when people talk about fabrics, because there's lots of different ways you can get fabric. So a lot of people talk about things like cotton and organic cotton, and for purposes of what we're doing, cotton isn't good anyway, because obviously for us it's all about wicking away sweat and odours. And cotton, if you get a cotton rag and put it in water, it just absorbs the water, whereas our clothes repel it. But in the same way, cotton, even the organic cotton, there's more organic cotton supposedly in the shops than there are organic plants, but it uses a lot of, they have much lower yields. So that has its problems as well.
Yeah, so not only is actual cotton, non-organic cotton,
use huge amounts of pesticides and huge amounts of water.
And it's destroying the environment from the water. World. But organic cotton is fantastic, but there is a limited amount of it, and as Nancy said, the yield is much lower, obviously, because it's organic, therefore you're using a lot more resources to get a lower yield. So as
everything has its pluses and minuses.
Nothing is perfect, and as a company and as individuals, we have to make a decision every time we come to crossing in the road. We have to think, which way do we go? And sometimes it's really not obvious which is the right way to go. We just have to think, okay, well, we think this is probably better, but it's not
perfect,
clear.
and we're not saying it's perfect. And the only other material I'd mention here is bamboo, because there's a lot of bamboo around at the moment. And bamboo can work in a fantastic way. But again, if you think of bamboo, it's a very hardy plant. And the amount of chemicals needed to make that into a soft, some people might have bamboo sheets, to make that into something soft and comfortable, uses a huge amounts of energy and huge amounts of chemicals to get there.
Wow.
And there's a lot of research out there saying that once you have got your product, once you've made your material from bamboo, a lot of its properties that make you, apparently has a lot of UV properties, a lot of that is gone because it's not actually the product you had at the beginning. And there's problems with deforestation. So everything has its pluses and minuses. So don't just dismiss polyester outright, because it has its place in the world.
And more it will have its place in the world, because it is human made, and it's not an agricultural thing. So I think there's a place for everything. It's just trying to weigh up what's best. And the reality is that the best thing to do is to buy things that you really love, wear them a lot, and keep them a long time, and then give them to someone else to
don't wash them.
And don't wash them, and don't what you really don't need to. My dad always said that, you're ruining my clothes, you're washing them too often, to my mum. But he was actually right. And in fact, we were speaking to somebody else the other day who has a friend who always wears Savile Row suits. He wouldn't dream of having them cleaned. He only ever brushes his suits, and that's actually traditionally you would brush your woolen suit.
Really? That's interesting.
There must be some marketing a few, 20, 30 years ago that got us all into Well, if you think about it, with all the marketing for like, you know, those like washing up liquids that have
antibacterial.
Yeah, antibacterial. Who needs that?
I know, we don't need
that. Dettol cleans
Exactly.
99% of germs dead. We need germs.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing,
Yeah.
isn't it? We've got to go back to basics.
Yeah, I think it's a marketing thing, because obviously the more you tell people that they might smell or that they might be dirty, their clothes aren't quite clean enough or white enough, the more product you can sell. And, you know, great, more fool us the consumers, but the reality is we really don't need to. Yeah.
I remember being so shocked when I saw Stacey Dooley's documentary about the cotton industry, and when she went to visit this the site of the sea, wasn't it, the inland sea in Central Asia that had completely dried up because of all the water used to create cotton. And I'd always thought cotton was, you know, one of the most environmentally friendly fabrics, and it's not, because of what it does to the environment.
The water waste and pesticide use.
So that's just that's what we're saying, is just, you know, do your research.
So basically,
read below the headline.
Our mothers weren't always right. They're mostly right. They weren't always right. They're all. I'm sure all our mums said, you must wear cotton. Cotton's very good. Natural fabrics. Don't wear any synthetic fabrics.
Cotton underwear.
Cotton underwear, exactly. But time to move on, and there are new things out there. So.
Yeah, definitely. And there's some. I mean, your fabric is just wonderful. It's you know, it feels so lovely, and it's so practical. It's fantastic. So this is going to be a slightly tricky question, I know, but if you had one bit of advice for a woman, you know, about our age in midlife, who's got an idea, but, you know, doesn't know how to progress it, and is just wavering and wondering, and should she just stick to what she's doing, or what would that advice be?
You know, what's the worst that can happen? Worst that can happen is, okay, we tried, but it didn't work. There we go. Yeah. I think, you know, and it's been fun while it's lasted. So I would say go for it. You don't want to have regrets, and don't think it too much. If you overthink it, you just don't do anything.
And I totally echo what Nancy says, because you have nothing to lose. You know, you're starting with nothing. You're not going to lose anything. And the other piece of advice would be, use all your connections. You have no idea how many connections you have.
When you get to our old age.
Yeah, and you have no idea how generous people are. You know, we have met so many people who said, you know, I can't quite help you with that, but actually I have a friend, I have a cousin, I have a, you know, old school.
Well, we met someone the other day, said, oh, you must speak to my sister.
Yes,
you know,
it was absolutely lovely. And in fact, she's a fantastic connection. We would never have met her, except it was just somebody thinking,
outside of the
I'm
box.
going to do a good
Think
deed
outside
today.
the box when you start.
Yeah, so talk to as many people as you can. I mean, don't tell your idea to everyone, but you know, just work your connections and get some feedback, and definitely just go for it, because you've got everything to gain. You know, even if Cucumber doesn't become the world dominating brand, and we are only the second best, we won't have lost anything, because we've met great people, we've had an really interesting time, we've learned so much. It's been terrific.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Magnificent Midlife Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, share it, and maybe leave me a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening. You can find out more information about this episode in the show notes at magnificentmidlife.com. That's also where you'll find strategies, support, and resources to help make your midlife magnificent. There's a wellness program, courses, midlife mentoring to help make the most of your next chapter, and our online members club. Because life's just too short for plain biscuits. Help me change the world, one magnificent midlife woman at a time.